Hey, what's up, Earth? It's Spaceman Matt. I thought I'd do something a little different this time and look at. I was very excited to see that Tubi TV now offers a lot of the classic Doctor Who episodes. Not all of them, but quite a few of them, and definitely worth checking out. And I just wanted to do something that if you're a casual fan of Doctor Who and haven't seen everything, or you're new, or if you're one of those fans that only watch the new Who and not the original series, I just wanted to review what I think uh, from what's available on Tubi TV that's worth viewing, that may be worth your time. And even though maybe you haven't watched all the past Doctor Who's, it's still I'm just trying to help you sort out the ones that I think are worth your time, as opposed to the ones that aren't. I'm going to take these headphones off. William Hartnell was the first Doctor, and it's funny, when I do the search classic Doctor Who, it comes up in an interesting order. It's usually like different every time I do it, but this is 3, 4, 1, 5, 2, 6, and 7. I don't know if that's in order of viewing popularity, but whatever the case is, it comes up different though every time I do it. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But I thought we'd start with the first Doctor. We'll do them in chronological order. And oops, this goes right to the video when you just click on it. But I'm just going to review what episodes. So the very first episode of Doctor Who was The Unearthly Child. Unfortunately, is not included. There was some controversy with the screenwriter or something, and it's been pulled from BritBox, and it's been pulled from BritBox. I'm not sure they were showing on Pluto TV. I don't know if that's which is a streaming service that just streams it constantly, and I'm not sure if they're showing it anymore either. I did see it like the last time I did run into it. The last time I looked at Pluto TV, but it may no longer be the case. I don't know what's going on, but The Unearthly Child is just interesting as it is the very first episode, but it's not necessarily worth your time to watch. The setup is very interesting, with Susan Foreman, the Doctor's granddaughter, attending Coal Hill School. They notice right away she's a little different, and Barbara and Ian go to investigate to see what her home life is like, because she's kind of strange, only to find that her grandfather is the Doctor, and they're not from this time or this world, and then they wind up going on an adventure in time and space there. So you're missing out a lot. I think it starts off very interesting. It gets a little boring when they go back in time to the time of the cavemen and their quest for fire. So it's not really that much worth it. I think another thing is, I think the Doctor is the first Doctor is kind of based on, I wanted to show Professor Newton from Rocky Jones, which you can also watch on Tubi TV. Let me see if I can pull that up. So there's Professor Newton from Rise, is Rocky Jones' Space Ranger. I think, and this came out in 1954, ran for one season. Kind of has a cult following. Some episodes wound up on Mystery Science Theater 3000. His look seems to be inspiration for the first Doctor. Let me know what you think. It is kind of interesting. Let's go back to look at the first Doctor episodes. So the first ones that they offer on Tubi TV is the Daleks, which made Doctor Who what it was in '63. Dalek Mania took over after this first episode. Of course, pictures of the Daleks are not featured in any of these screenshots that they offer. Just the characters Barbara, Ian, and Susan, the granddaughter. I do suggest that you watch these episodes one at a time and like they were viewed back in the 60s. You ended the cliffhanger, and take a break in between. I would say as much as a day, or just take a break whenever between episodes. And whenever you have a chance to see the next episode, then sit down and watch the next episode. I think that'd be more enjoyable that way because they are paced rather slowly. When the episodes generally for classic Doctor Who, when they're over 4 episodes, I find that they're kind of padded. The stories are kind of padded, so they're kind of more drawn out than they need to be. So the Daleks, I think, is definitely worth watching. And there's a kind, if you really can't stand black and white at all, they just released a special colorized version on DVD in America. I don't know if it's already out in Britain, but they just released it in America, and it might be worth picking up if you really can't stand the color. It's also the colorized version is abbreviated. It's for pacing, and it may be more of an interest if you really can't stomach black and white TV shows. So this Alex goes on for 7 episodes, and again, I think it's important to watch them, just one at a time. The next episode Tubi offers is Edge of Destruction, which is a TARDIS-bound story. This is something ship-bound stories were especially prevalent in Star Trek Next Generation, and they kind of made it work for that show a lot. But I don't think, and there is I guess some character development here in the story, and some melodrama, but I think it's very, otherwise it's a very skippable episode. Keys and Maris is an action adventure one, and it's probably as much action as you'll see for the first Doctor story. And it's like a quest episode, and they go to different places on this planet to pick up the different keys for this like supercomputer. And it's kind of it is an interesting story for the first Doctor, and probably worth your time watching it. Let's see what's there. So Keys and Marinus, that goes on for a few episodes. The Aztecs is a historical one. Is the first one that they offer on Tubi, and I think it's a skippable story. I think you can avoid watching that one. I don't like historicals. If you're really into Aztecs, though, or you're really into history, you may want to look at the historical ones. But I just find them to be boring, and just the acting and pacing is very slow, very stilted. The Sensorites are, let's see, did they show you the creatures in the creature design for the Sensorites are very interesting. There's one there. But that's the most interesting thing of the episode. Other than that, it's very slow paced, very boring, and I think it's very skippable. We'll go on to season 2. Planet of the Giants is an odd story. Kind of like, reminds you of the Urban Allen series, Land of the Giants. Maybe it was inspiration for that. I don't know, but it's probably one you can skip. I think, is it only 3 parts? Yeah, even so. Yeah, Planet of the Giants is 3 parts. The Doctor and crew get exposed to pesticides, and they shrink, and they have to figure out how to get back to normal size. I think that was pretty much the episode, and it's, even though it's only 3 episodes, it's not that exciting. Then we have the Dalek invasion of Earth, which was also, and the first Dalek episode and the Daleks invasion of Earth were made into movies in the 60s, starring Peter Cushing. They are not canonical movies. I've got pictures of them here from IMDb. Hold on a second, let me pull that up. So this is the Doctor Who and the Daleks. The Doctor here is played by Peter Cushing, and he's called Doctor Who. He's an Earth scientist. He's not from outer space, and it's kind of a different take on the series, and it's just worth watching as a curiosity, and it is in color, and the pacing I think is probably a little better in the movie. Definitely is the case with Dalek Invasion of Earth, where there's a lot of elements of the TV story are cut out of this, and this moves in a much quicker clip, and it's much more simplified. Uh, but I think it's a much more fun version than the TV version, and you can probably skip the TV version of it. But the Daleks were big back in the '60s, so I'm sure it was a big ratings winner back when it aired. Oops, there's Rocky Jones again. Let's get back to Dalek Invasion of Earth. It's a long one. I think you can skip it. Then the rescue. I think at the end of Dalek's Invasion of Earth, Susan leaves. So she's the first companion to leave, and she stays on Earth and marries a human. And in this story, the rescue, um, they pick up Vicky, I believe, and that's the most interesting thing that happens. I think you can skip this one. The Romans again, historicals. I would skip the historical ones. The Web Planet is a interesting production for its time. I think the costumes and stuff you can see on the second episode. You can see the butterfly creatures, and those are very interesting. But that's the most interesting part of the story. As far as just the production and the considering it was 60s television and Doctor Who was produced on a shoestring budget, it looks like they wasted all the budget on the sets and costumes for this one. But the story is it just moves at a. They didn't feature any snails but it moves at a snail's pace. So that's one. They have ants, and there's an ant there, and these butterfly creatures they're interesting. They're interesting to look at, but it's again the story is not that interesting. Space Museum is another strange one where the episode doesn't quite make sense to me. You might check it out and see if that makes sense to you, but again it's one I think it's very skippable. And then so season 2 ends with another Dalek episode, The Chase, which I think a lot of fans don't like it, but I think it's interesting. And so it's basically the Daleks decide that the Doctor is a menace, and he's thwarted their plans on several occasions, and they want to get rid of him once and for all. Had there been a third Peter Cushing movie, it would have been this one, but the Dalek Invasion of Earth, 2150 whatever movie was not a great hit at the box office. So they, although it was critically well received, it didn't do that well at the box office. So they decided not to make The Chase into a movie. A lot of fans don't like this one. I think it's for William Hartnell's story. It's pretty interesting. Again, as I said, the Daleks decide that the Doctor Who is a menace, that the Doctor is a menace, and they want to chase him down in their own time machine. This shows that the Daleks have the ability now to have time travel. They build their own version of the TARDIS, and they're chasing him through time and space to get rid of him. It ends up with little spoilers, just in case you're spoiler sensitive. It ends up with them finding Stephen with the mechanoids, and Stephen eventually becomes their companion. And at the end of the story, Barbara and Ian go home. They pick up Stephen here, as you see him here, as a companion. And the mechanoids were supposed to be a replacement for the Daleks. Terry Nation was going to take the Daleks with him to America to have their own series. That never panned out. So the mechanoids were one possible replacement for the Daleks. But they were just like robots that built a city, and I guess they kicked out all the humans or something like that, or they got rid of all the humans, and so they have this automated city run by the mechanoids. But they take out the Daleks for the Doctor, and gets away with Stephen and Vicky, and they they go back and they go out and have a and he continues his adventures with Stephen and Vicky. Anyway, so then the final episode of the season is the Time Meddler. This is the first time we see another one. This is the meddling monk, or just the monk, uh, and this is the first time, here he is over here, and this is the first time there's another. They don't name them Time Lords, but this is another Time Lord. It's another person from the Doctor's whole planet. He has his own TARDIS. And unlike the Doctor, he wants to change time and be mischievous, and he's doing something in England, and he's going to make them win a certain war, what they're not supposed to win, or something along those lines. I forget what the whole story's about, but it's kind of forgettable. It's just interesting for that aspect for the monk. In the end, he traps the monk on back in this time in his own TARDIS. And then he shows up in Dalek again in the Dalek Master Plan, which was an episode that is missing and new. So you can only listen to audio or a fan or the fan reconstruction episodes. So that's the only other time he appears. I think he winds up stranded again by the Doctor at the end of the Dalek Master Plan. Although he's not the principal villain in it, he just kind of shows up for it. The Dalek Master Plan was a 12-parter, and it kind of shows up, I think, as padding again. So let's see, the final William Hartnell season. So William Hartnell only had 3 seasons. Starts out with Galaxy 4, which I think is an interesting story. I think it's the pacing ends very slow. And this is all animated because it's missing. I think there's the episode 3 exists as a real episode. They don't offer the live action version. This is all animated. I think if you get the DVD version, you'll get to see the actual the live action version of it. So if that's something that interests you, you do have So you have these 2 aliens, the Dravins, which are these cold-blooded but rather attractive space hotties and another race called the Rills, who breathe ammonia and are like strange monsters that are like isolated because they can't breathe the planet's atmosphere. So the Doctor has to decide who to help out. Does he help out the warrior-like space hotties, or the more civil Rills who don't look like us and are monsters? So it's about overcoming sort of that anthropomorphic bias, I think, that normally the Doctor would have in most situations, but in the situations the Rills are pretty much the good guys. So he winds up having to help them out and stop the Dravins from killing them, so they can escape the planet. And it's interesting for that, but it is quite just the way it's handled is quite. It's an interesting idea. It's quite boring. Otherwise, the Ark is another one. Again, it's an interesting premise where this is one of the generational ships going to find a new planet. So it's a space ark that's going to find a new planet for humanity, and so it's humans, and they have this subservient race called the Monoids, which are these one-eyed creatures. They're very striking look. The costume design, the creature design for the Monoids was very, I think, good for its time. I think I've got a picture of it and another tab here. Let's see. There it is there with the one eye, and it's got some type of, I think the collar allows them to speak or whatever. But they counted them twice. Once the past version, Vicky Dodo is the companion at this point, has a cold. She gives it and then that makes the humans or don't have resistance to it. It makes them weak, and then the Monoids take over the Ark. So it's basically the Doctor managing conflict between the Monoids and the humans. uh, for the story. Again, it's an interesting idea. I think the execution is a little slow, the pacing's slow, and probably not. You can probably skip it. And then they have the Gunfighters, which is a classically bad episode. Only interesting thing is to see them try to do English actors trying to do American accents. But otherwise, it's really like, and there's a woman singing throughout, which is like nails on a chalkboard. If you ask me, it's really singing like a little ballad of the story, and it's just rather silly and just very very badly done, I think. And then finally, we have the War Machines, which is the final episode. The last episode of Doctor Who is the 10th Planet, which they do not. So they don't have the very first episode. They don't have the very last episode with the 10th Planet. It doesn't seem like they have any of the incomplete stories, like where it's one episode is and they have this like with the Ice Warriors or from the Patrick Troughton era. And what's the other one? The Moon Base, which is a very good Patrick Troughton episode, which has 2 missing episodes and 2 live action. That's not included in Tubi TV, which is a shame because Moonbase is a very good. It's a second Cyberman story, and it's very good. 10th Planet is not as good, but it's interesting to see. It is William Hartnell's last episode. Unfortunately, it's not included in here. And I think the animation for the the 10th Planet had 3 episodes that were preserved that they found, and then they have the 4th one is animated, and it is. And I think the animation for that is probably one of the better animations for Doctor Who, but unfortunately, it's not included here. Maybe worth checking out on DVD. Although I don't think the story is that great for 10th Planet. It is interesting to look at, see the the early Cybermen, and they brought that back, and they did bring them back for New Who. Though that style of Cyberman, they brought it back for a Peter Capaldi episode, which I thought was kind of well done. But the War Machines, okay, going back to the War Machines, this is about a supercomputer. It's kind of relevant for today. It's a super AI artificially intelligent computer who decides it wants to take over the world. It also happens to control these war machines, which are these big they're bigger. They're almost the size of a car. They're bigger than Daleks. This is another potential replacement for the Daleks, which never kind of panned out. The super AI computer is called Wotan, and it stands for like will operated something. I forget what it stands for, but it's so smart that it knows that it's a character in a TV show because it refers to the Doctor as Doctor Who. So somehow Wotan it's like it's such an amazing supercomputer. It knows it's not real. So I'm just kidding. The War Machines in here on this 3rd panel. You see this is Polly over here. They introduced Ben and Polly, who carry on to be companions of the 2nd Doctor. Dodo is left behind in the episode, and then the fans complain that she just kind of just left out of the last scene and doesn't really say goodbye. I think at the end of that story, it's probably a skippable episode overall. It's just interesting to see Ben and Polly for the first time, and it's an interesting idea. It's just not very well executed. And there's Ben there, and the Doctor. So that's all Tubi offers for the William Hartnell era. The next one we'll look at Patrick Troughton next. Patrick Troughton is one of my favorite Doctors, so there'll be a lot more that I will recommend that you guys check out. Hopefully you'll like this video and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. It would help me out a lot. And hopefully we'll see you next time. I may go back to doing my regular style of episode coming up in the near future, hopefully. But I just thought I would do this for now because I was really excited to see classic Doctor Who on Tubi TV, and this gives fans access to it without a paywall, without having to buy the DVDs, and I think that's great to put it out there to help fans know a little bit more about the history of the show. All right, that's all for now. See you next time.
Subscribe
Bye.
to Spaceman Matt's Sci-Fi vlog today. The fate of the world depends on it, I guess.